we were on issue 2 or 3 of the Nose. We had done the fictitious business plan of the Grateful Dead Incorporated. Pages and pages of like charts and graphs and financial data and all this crap, some of it was real and some we made up. And the editor of the SF Weekly looked at that and said, living on Red's vitamin C and T-shirts, that's hilarious. You want to write my column at the SF Weekly? And, I hadn't really been, I was more familiar with the Bay Guardian because it was larger and it was, I guess it had been around a lot longer. SF Weekly was still fairly new at that time. And I went, yeah, sure. So I would, I didn't know what to do about writing a column, but I did my homework. I read a bunch of Ben Hecht. Oh my God.
Why did you do that?
To just figure out about how to write a column that might resonate with people. I didn't want to do a Herb Caen ... I didn't want to just, pontificate at great length about some album I liked. That's what everybody did in San Francisco. It was like 10,000 music journalists. I mean, so I would, I read Ben Hecht. I read a bunch of other people. John Wasserman of the San Francisco Chronicle was an excellent columnist back in his day. He did a whole column about interviewing Lassie. Like Lassie was involved in some TV show in the 60s, and I guess they did some promo tour and took a dog around, as some promo tour. And so John Wasserman, the journalist, posed the dog on his desk and then sat at a typewriter and looked at it, and the dog looked at him, and there was this famous photograph of and the column was hilarious because, of course, the dog doesn't say anything, but it was still, he had an interesting style. He was a real kind of a jazzbo guy, but he had an interesting take on the city that I thought was, he wasn't afraid to write about squeamish, underbellies or, over the hill, burlesque dancer woman in her 80s, and he would do a whole column about that. I appreciated what he did, and I was just looking for ways to write a column that wasn't the usual sort of I don't know, and there were some people who shined at that, at writing weekly columns. New York Press, do you remember that, Donnell? The New York Press newspaper.
Yes.
They had some great writers, great columnists.
That was a weird call. You caught me off guard there. I remember that one, but that's. Why don't you just say LA City Beat?
LA City Beat, right. LA City Beat.
No,
LA
deep cuts.
No, everybody had a lot. There were a lot of publications all over, and it was desktop publishing, I think, that ignited a lot of that sort of, second and third tier publications for sure. And then, I don't know, I just kept writing that column. And then another year would go by, and I'd write another, and year of it. So I never missed one. So I did that for 8 years, writing a weekly column.